Today you're going to use given information just to mark diagrams. So this first one is pretty straightforward. It says mark the figure using the given information. In this example, it says given that angle A is congruent to angle E. So we just want to go to angle A and put an arc mark, and we want to have the exact same mark in angle E. For the second example, it says given AD is congruent to BE. So for this one, AD is a side, so we give it a tick mark right in the middle, and then same for BE, and we want those marks to match. This example is a little different. There's no given, so it says mark the figure and write the properties shown. So the only mark that we can add in this is we can mark AC because both triangles share it. And thinking back, you might not remember learning this, but we did learn that this is called the reflexive property. So later this week, we're going to be using that a lot, but when you mark something that both triangles share, we call it the reflexive property. In this example, again, there's no given, so we're just going to mark the diagram with what we know. And in this diagram, there are vertical angles right here and here. And we can always mark that in these bow tie pictures because vertical angles are congruent. This next one, we're marking the figure with the given information. So it says angle DAG is congruent to angle BCG. And sometimes it seems like we have a hard time when we're given more than one letter to name an angle. So if you literally just follow it, it starts at D, goes to A, goes to G, you can see that angle A is this angle that's outlined. So that's the angle I mark. Remember, the vertex is always the middle letter. So you're always marking that middle letter. Again, if you kind of outline BCG, so start at B, go to C, go to G, you can see that the green angle, the outlined part, is at C, so that's what I'm marking. Again, it's the vertex, it's that middle letter. This next one says given AC, and this symbol right here means perpendicular. So AC is perpendicular to DB. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, I don't really know what that means or what I'm supposed to mark. Well, perpendicular means that right angles are formed. So where AC and DB meet, there will be a right angle. So here's AC, here's DB, and you can see it does look like it should be a right angle. And we're just going to mark right angles with the square. This next one says given DB bisects AC. Remember, the word bisect means cut into two equal parts. And so what this is saying is DB cuts AC into two equal parts. So here's AC. It's getting cut into two equal parts. And so what that means is AB, this piece, is the exact same length as BC, this piece. So we would mark AB and BC. This is similar but slightly different because this time an angle is what's getting bisected. So this angle is getting bisected by DB. So DB cuts angle ADC into two equal parts. So here's angle ADC, and here's DB. And if you actually highlight all the pieces it's referring to, you can see that the two angles are formed. So here's the first one, and here's the second one. So these two angles are congruent. So that's angle ADB and angle CDB. The next one says B is the midpoint of AC. So remember, midpoint means right in the middle. And so what that means is each half is the same length. So here's AC. B is right in the middle. So that tells us that AB is the exact same as BC. Whenever you're given parallel lines, so this one says AD parallel to BC, there's a few things that you're going to actually mark. The first thing we need to add is the parallel markings, and remember we do that with arrows going the same direction. So AD parallel to BC. Now, if I highlight those two parallel lines and the transversal that touches them, you can see that I have outlined some angles, and that would be this angle here and this angle here. And those are actually alternate interior angles. And if you're having a hard time seeing it, let me come down here and sketch you the parallel lines and the transversal a little more like what we're used to seeing. So we just said it's this angle and this angle. So those are alternate interior. If I complete my picture, and it's not perfect, but hopefully you can see, there it is. So these are just alternate interior. And the last one, this says AD parallel to BE. So this is very similar to the last example, except this time the diagram's a little different. So here we have AD and here we have BE, and remember we marked them parallel with arrows going the same direction. Again, if I highlight those two parallel lines, there is one transversal that touches both of them. And if I highlight the transversal and my parallel lines, you can see these angles that are formed. So these two angles are congruent. And again, if you're having a hard time seeing, well, what kind of angle pair is that? If I just sketch this diagram for you, this definitely looks more like what we're used to seeing. And I have marked these two angles congruent, and maybe you can see that those would be corresponding. And again, my picture's not perfect, but there you can see those are corresponding angles.